For many people in the conspiracy world, the year of 1947 is a landmark date for anybody that believes in aliens or UFOs or anything along those lines, because that was the day that the Roswell conspiracy happened, when supposedly aliens landed. And from that point on, it changed the world forever. My name is Nick.
And I'm Tim, and we're the Cantu Bros, and today we're going to be talking about Roswell, New Mexico.
Prior to the Roswell Incident, most of the people that lived in the United States were very trusting of their government. At the time, we had just come out of World War II, and basically anything the government had said, the American people followed, because at that point in time, we had just come out of a giant battle with the Nazis, the Japanese, the Italians, everything along those lines. So most people couldn't believe that the government would hide anything. However, in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, everything changed when there was a supposed crash in the farmlands.
What the crash, too, makes it funny is they actually went out. There's a couple other statements that they went off on it, too, is when they first crashed, they're like, oh no, nothing really happened. There was kind of like a whole smokescreen effect kind of thing. It's like, no, there really wasn't, nothing happened here. But even though people, they're like, yeah, we saw the people who lived on the farmland, they knew something happened.
They recovered bodies, the test dummies that were out on the crash site. The interesting thing about the crash was, at the time, most people didn't believe that their government would lie to them. And I think that as an incident, this is one of the things that sparked the big mistrust for decades, generations. A lot of people that don't believe in conspiracy theories or don't believe that the government's lying to them, you ask them about Roswell, they know what Roswell is. So in a way, the Roswell incident helped to sow the seeds of mistrust amongst the government and the people, and kind of helped build a big divide and a shaft between the average American person and whatever the government's hiding out there. Because if the Roswell incident, whether or not, the big thing is they say they were weather balloons and not alien crafts. Whether or not they were weather balloons or crafts is that it set up a precedence where the government can and will mislead the public in whatever is going on in the situation.
And to go off on your weather balloon too, it wasn't just one weather balloon, which to make it's kind of funny actually. After they came out with the statement, oh, it was a weather balloon crash that they were testing and it crashed and burned and caused everything else. After that, they said, yes, we were covering it up, but it wasn't that weather balloon. It was another weather balloon they were working on that crash.
Right.
And a secreter weather balloon, and it's like, well, what's the
point?
What's the point? Are you getting that?
Well, the interesting aspect about it was when the actual crash happened, the Air Force were the first ones to actually get on the scene to out there, because Roswell, New Mexico, when you look at just how big Roswell was back then, it was basically farmland. So when the Air Force got out there, they legitimately thought they got an alien-like craft, because when they put a statement out to the press actually were notified that we've just recovered the first alien body, the first extraterrestrial body.
That's right, yeah.
And after that point, literally the next day, there's a famous picture of one of the Air Force people actually holding a piece of the craft. The next day, the Air Force put out another statement declaring that it was a mistake, nothing actually happened, and then it was silent for years and years and years and years and years. It wasn't until decades later
when the second weather balloon,
high frequency weather balloon, where potentially like Cold War type weaponry, because at the time the communists and the American government, so what had happened was the Cold War was just starting to heat up. You know, we were stockpiling nukes, they were stockpiling nukes, and we needed to find contingency plans in order to keep it safe. Now, whether or not you would say that that was a good thing for them to do, to not be upfront about the weaponry or what we were working on, that's something that can be stated in terms of personal preference and relativity nowadays. Because some people are on the fence of sometimes not knowing about something is better than actually knowing about something, but sometimes it's not. So where the big camp, you have to decide what side you're on, is the government should be more open about stuff or they shouldn't.
You either have to full cards, tell everybody the truth, or full cards, not say anything.
There really isn't a gray area. What the lasting effect is now, it's very simple. To this day, the average person out there believes the government's hiding something. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be something as insignificant as taxes or the moon landings, whatever the case, whatever your conspiracy is, whatever tickles your fancy the most, that is what you do not believe when the government tells you something. And to this day, it all goes back to Roswell. It all started then, and the echo has happened from back then till now.
So now that we've gone over a little bit about the history and what kind of happened after Roswell happened, so do you think aliens exist or not?
Yes, exponentially yes? I do. And okay. the thing with that is, now, I'll go ahead and say this on camera. I have a military background. I don't know if you want to state.
Well, yeah, I'm also military background as well. I mean, we don't look it because of the beard and everything.
Right.
But yes, we do have prior military background and
military experience.
And to go off with you too, yes, I also believe aliens exist because not even in the military, like there's some things with our mother as well that when we were younger, I was driving down the road and me and our mom saw weird shit.
At the same time, to answer your question, yes, I think aliens are real. Now, with my experience with the military, the one thing that we've stated in this particular video is that the sowing of the seeds of mistrust between the government and the people. What's interesting is that I don't necessarily think that the government was wrong in stating. So it's weird because I'm on two sides of this coin, because I have a very big anarchist type of mentality when it comes to government. I believe limited government's better than more government power. But I get it. At the Cold War was a different time, different era. So you had a situation where at any point in time the Russians could nuke us and we wouldn't know. So everyone was scared, afraid of nuclear holocaust at any turn. It's different now, decades and decades later, than what the mentality was back then. Now, do I think they should have lied about that? So, what I think is interesting, a lot of people who have never been in the government or had a government job or been in the military, they like to believe that the military and the government, it's just this giant conspiracy where we all talk to each other, we're all buddies, we all know every secret out there.
We're always by the water cooler saying, hey, see that alien we pulled in today? Yeah, I know. Like, we're not going to tell my friend about it. No, we're not.
Like, see, that's...
Hey, I got to fly the spacecraft yesterday. How did it go? I went to Mars and back. No way!
Oh my god, yeah, it's better than Arizona. Probably a lot cooler, though, right now. If there was, and this will go for any conspiracy out there, right? A lot of people think that there's these giant worldwide, nationwide conspiracies to cover up aliens. My own personal opinion, on the record, I don't believe anybody in government is smart enough to do that. At all. I genuinely think, I don't know if you believe the same thing, but I genuinely think...
It would be too expensive for them. Technically, they can't even fund us on normal missions out the door.
Right, exactly.
Right,
when we
your trucks are breaking down. Sorry,
yes,
we're gonna give you MREs instead, but we need web trucks.
Right. So when I have deployed in the past, and when I deployed with another unit, we got there with the other unit. The other unit was still utilizing M16s, which to deploy with an M16 nowadays, to put that in perspective, that's like deploying with gear that's like 20, 30 years old.
So like hatchets and...
Yeah, like that'd be like deploying from the 1900s to the 1700s. Like, why would you use old tech like that? So in terms of money, now finance, I think they could afford it. I just don't think that they're smart enough to pull something off like that. In terms of a worldwide conspiracy to cover up aliens, flying crafts in the air, where they're zipping around, doing all this stuff, I have enough trouble personally not telling people what I got them for Christmas. I can, and again, it's relative to each individual person. I know everyone's got their own caliber of how they can handle situations. But if
the majority of the military or the government,
if anybody's been in the military, they can't shut the hell up about anything. And even if it's a vow of secrecy, or you're not supposed to talk about this, I guarantee you, a day later, everybody in the unit's gonna know about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody.
It doesn't, and it's not even talking about regular conspiracy stuff either. It's just talking about anything.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, by the way, we're going on a mission tomorrow. Oh, okay, yeah. Like the higher ups talking about it. 2 seconds later, some private or something, or somebody else heard it and whispered it down to everybody else, and now it's a huge rumor and it's all misinterpreted. Right.
Now, the interesting thing is different time frame, different period, right? So if we're looking at government versus then versus now, back then, I feel like it would have been easier to cover something up because back then they didn't have access to the internet. So it's easier being in a small town to cover things up and say that. So,
but to counter that a little bit, it's also easier to add on to it. Actually, it's also easier to fake things too.
Easier to fake things. It's also easier to prove the existence of certain things. So it's this weird double-edged sword. Now, in terms of, do I think? So what do I think happened in Roswell? there's a part of me that wants to believe it's aliens because if you look back at a lot of the testimonies and all the people, the farmland, the people out there, they were just average, everyday people. Again, what makes Roswell...
Why would they lie about it? Yeah.
What makes Roswell Incident so interesting is the fact that this was prior to a lot of the big conspiracies. Everything else came because of Roswell. When people started asking questions and trying to understand, why is the government doing certain things this way as opposed to doing them this way? So I think there's a chance that it could have been aliens. And again, you could argue that after that point, let's say they found alien tech. After that point was when we started skyrocketing in a lot of our technological advancements. So,
like turbine engines and so forth.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's entirely possible that we got it from that incident. Now, on the flip side of that, I can see the incident, what they said in, I think, Project Blue Book or whatever, where they actually outlined it and they came out and said that it was weather balloon. I could see it being some sort of Cold War weapon because if you look back at declassified documents, there's a lot of documents and a lot of pictures of stealth fighters and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There. So it's in top. Now, I guess if I was to narrow it down and pick one thing, I'm gonna say it was aliens again. And it's hard for me. I went on my spiel about I don't think the government could pull something off like that. And my point is proven in the official statements because the Air Force immediately right after said, we got a damn alien. We got him. And then the day after, like, oh, wait, never mind.
Have it, yeah.
And that's right there, which makes me think that I genuinely think they found an alien because they had to immediately double back and then just not talk about it for years and years and years and hope that it went away.
Now, to counter a little bit off of it, because I'm going to play a little bit devil's advocate, but with it, though, is I think it is alien, that there was some sort of aliens, too. But also there's a part of me that kind of thinking, I was talking about it, too, before, was that maybe they're embarrassed the fact that it might have been actually their own people. Like, saying it was literally an actual test for some sort of specific thing, but they're embarrassed because they crashed and failed the project in local land, pretty much, not in a restricted area. Yeah, and the things that were there, maybe they said it was an alien because they didn't want to know that, it was actually real people from their country that did it.
That's
they're actual people that died testing it out and they were just too embarrassed to say it.
Could have been the Russians too. Russians crash landed in Roswell,
which is another
trying to spy on us.
Which is another code for aliens too.
I mean, you're not wrong. Technically, they would technically be illegal aliens at that point,
and that's why they pedal back. So not necessarily mean extraterrestrial. Maybe it meant Russian. So
it's the equivalent of flying like a flying saucer out of Area 51 and it landing in Las Vegas, essentially. Although if Las Vegas was basically rural areas.
Now that we got this all settled down, there's something else we want to talk about, like a little bit aliens, but we'll leave it a little later. But I want to put it out here. Did you know that actually nowadays people are starting to think that maybe in like biblical terms and all this other stuff that aliens might actually be considered demons and gods?
Well, the Earth is flat, so I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. I think that would be an interesting topic to discuss, though. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments what you think, and do you guys think that aliens actually were found in Roswell, or do you think that it was a government cover-up?
Or do you think we're all stupid? Whichever, it doesn't matter. So please like, subscribe, and have a nice day, everybody.
My name is Nick.
And I'm Tim.
Yeah, just go ahead and stop it right there. Yeah. We're all stupid? That was like the worst thing we could